Thank you so much, Kevin and Michelle. Just so appreciate you. And thank you to everybody for letting us into your home so early on a Saturday morning before the rugby starts. But yeah, we really trust and pray that, whatever God has on his hearts to build safety and trust into your marriage, that this morning it's just going to be part of that. Just building in, opening doors, creating safety, breaking shame, so that we can be authentic and healthy beings for each other, and especially in our marriage. So we're going to do a quick recap of the last two sessions we've done, because that is also, for us to not do the recap, we're actually then taking out a whole lot of steps in terms of how we create that safe space and that place of trust in our marriage. Okay, so just to remind you quickly that a healthy biblical worldview is important to have. All right, that right at the beginning, all human life is sacred. It all fell. It is all redeemed. Okay, and it can all be transformed. All right, so we've got to have that in our minds. We want to become people that are transformed and continue transforming because of the redemptive work of Christ. That was essential because of the fall, and because we are human beings that are incredibly wonderfully made by God. Okay, next thing is covenant. Obviously, covenant is crucial to our understanding of the basic script of marriage. All right, we're always in each other's club. We're always in each other's corner.
Corners.
Okay, each other. All right, we're in for the long haul. It's a rugged commitment. It's for the present. Okay, and it's always transforming. We spoke a lot around sexuality being absolutely natural. We don't choose our sexuality, all right? And it's not only the sexual act, okay? Sex is precious and sacred. So that's the difference. Sexuality is natural, sex is precious. And then we spoke about the whole thing of 1 Corinthians 13 being a wonderful scripture to create safety and trust in a relationship. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres, because love never fails. Let's just stop there a bit. Let's just think, take one of those characteristics of love. Which one just sticks out to us this morning? Which one this morning is precious for us, for our marriage?
And it's important that that scripture does not, some may feel like, oh my gosh, every single one of those we've had the opposite in our marriage. Well, I think if you haven't had that, it means you're not positioned to grow in love. So on all those positions, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control, every single one of those areas will be tested because God is interested in us growing in love, is interested in our characters.
Okay. Good. It's just going to share about our development.
Yes. So as we talk about development, sexuality is natural and sex is worship. Within looking at the vine, the healthy sexuality development, it creates a safety, but also a responsibility, because each of us is a tree, and that we take responsibility for our stories and should I put it, the booby traps that are set. Oh, I didn't mean to say it like that, but the booby traps that are set all the way through our lives where things have gone wrong. So we take responsibility for our own sexuality development. So from preconception all the way to the fruit. And from this analogy, we also say the fruit is what you give to your partner. So the fruit is good sex. So we want to look at developing great fruit, that this becomes a more tasty, desirable um, exchange.
Yeah.
So everyone taking responsibility so that your sex can be safe.
Yeah. And then at the end, last time, we spoke about the courtship cycle, and that one of the ways to really establish and reestablish trust and safety is to remember that from 1 to 9 in the courtship cycle doesn't involve the sexual act. And if we can go back to really noticing, being attracted, flirting, demonstrating our love, romance, individuation, intimacy, and touching, we can go back to just putting those basics into our relationship again. We can really reestablish some beautiful trust. Okay.
And remember, the word intimacy that's not physical intimacy, that is emotional intimacy. It's about knowing and being known. So knowing oneself and being known. And we can all grow in that because we are still developing right until till death us do part.
Yeah.
We are still growing and learning to know ourselves. And that's why we look at it in the context of a relationship with God who knows you. It says, even as I'm fully known. And that's God fully knows you better than you know yourself, or me than myself. So growing with God just opens up intimacy towards each other too.
Yeah. Okay, so this morning we're going to focus mainly on good sex, then what is a healthy touch script, and then we're going to look at what do we have in terms of our body and the sexual act itself. Okay, so those are the three things we're going to be looking at this morning. So I have a fairly long long quote here, but it's worth reading. So it's from John White. He's a psychiatrist. Unfortunately, he has died, but not too long ago, so we can still listen to him. All right. So he wrote this, which I think is beautiful. Immediate erotic thrill is the most superficial benefit of the sex act. The bodily exposure that arouses and accompanies it can be both profoundly symbolic and powerfully healing. It is the healing, concrete sign of what is happening in the whole relationship, the uncovering of our inner selves, our deepest fears and yearnings. As I look tenderly on the body of another, as I experience what it is to feel the tenderness of another's caress, then the one who accepts and touches my most intimate body and caresses it with tenderness caresses also my inmost being. So it only makes sense that sex relationships or relations be confined to marriage. For mutual disclosure and tender acceptance is not the activity of a moment, but the delicate fabric of a lifetime's weaving. Each time sex springs from casual encounter, physical disclosure and touching, some of its life-giving and healing nature is destroyed. I think we can learn so much from that. And just to pick out some of the things. Yeah, sex must be physical, but when it is only physical, we miss out on so much. But it is the sign of what is happening in the whole relationship. Okay? And that's quite a hard one to actually accept. If our sex is good, our relationship is good. If it's struggling, then we're struggling in our relationship.
And the other way around. If we're struggling, the sex will also struggle.
Yeah. It touches the most intimate body and my inmost being. Okay? Sex can't just be the external. It's actually going deeper.
Well, it can, but it can be destructive if it's only external.
Yeah. So it's confined to covenant marriage. And I love this one. Sex is the delicate fabric of a lifetime's weaving. Isn't that amazing? It's the fabric of a lifetime of weaving special moments together, of weaving times when we're not in the bedroom. It's how we've lived life and chosen to honor each other. We weave together this fabric, and sex is that delicate fabric. And it results in deep connection and healing. And it just says that it's not the immediate erotic thrill that is very superficial, and that it can't be a casual encounter. And I think we've got to be careful here, because we could be saying that sex is only serious. And I think we've got to be careful of that. It's not only serious. It has I think one of the great intentions of good sex is for healing and closeness and intimacy and creating that, delicate fabric. But we've also got to realize it can be just flippant and fun. All right. But
within marriage. So
within marriage,
yeah,
always in
yeah,
marriage.
yeah.
Yeah.
So any sexual encounter that is not from the fabric of the intimacy of knowing and being known tears at your own fabric of your soul.
Yeah.
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 It's very destructive.
Okay, so we're going to now look at the Song of Songs. Because if you think about it, other religions have books around sex. Well, we do as well. So Jen's just going to share on that.
So the Song of Songs was originally a PG rated book. It can be read on various levels in terms of Christ and the church, the story of Solomon, as well as being seen as a very sexual erotica writings. And so as you read through Song of Songs, you'll see there are portions of it which you'll think, oh my gosh, they really can't be meaning that. And remember, it's a symbolic book. So like the fruit and the shape of the breasts and the neck and the cheekbones, and just enjoying the whole body, the descriptions of the whole body, and particularly the grapes, the clusters of fruit, relating to the breasts. And, when you go into reading and you're like, this isn't the Bible. And it's like, yeah, because God just wanted couples to have really good intimate sex. There's also within there, do you want to speak about the symbolism?
Yeah. So Jen spoke about the clusters of grapes, all right? And those are specifically, if you go into the meaning of it, it is the breasts, okay? And then in Song of Songs 5:12, it speaks about the wife looking at her husband and his polished ivory. Okay, and yes, that is the erect penis. Okay, and his tusk. Yeah. I just think many of us have run away from the deep sexual imagery, as well as the healthy sexual act that is spoken about in Song of Songs. But like the previous quote that we've quoted, it's so much more than just the physical act. It's about getting to know each other, really celebrating each other's inward being as well as our outward beings. But then it does become very sexual.
So we also talk, if you go and read Song of Songs, and I think for all of us, every time you read the Bible, there's more to be revealed. So those who've grown up thinking that sex is wrong, you would say this is not what the Bible means, because God could not be this, that's not how. But when you see that that's why we looked at the biblical worldview in the beginning, because everything God created, all human life is sacred, everything he created is good. Why would the act of sex be wrong and so bad? And then you would read Song of Songs and say, no, let's just skim over this book. So go and read it with the intention of go find that symbolism of, and within that, we'll also say, and I think in the sexual cycle, the desire there phase is about, I'll think upon my lover. Now, thinking involves your imagination. All of us have visual memory. Well, if you've been able to see, if you're totally blind, your brain also actually has some visual action, not necessarily memory, but all of us can envisage and can picture things. And oftentimes the same imprints that happen with pornography, that stuff can be changed. You can choose images that are helpful to put into that space. And as you read through this, you'll think they each think upon their lover, they think upon their bodies. They are fantasizing about each other in so many words.
Mm.
And what it's doing is it's causing them to be aroused. It's causing them to, oh my gosh, what a beautiful body. I think of this and think of that. And that's why even as couples, we say, what do you like about your own body? What part of your husband's body do you like? Here they're in this place, me and my lover, and then and
Mm.
whatever, and in the garden, and let's go think about these things that are arousing, because that can be very helpful.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you want to arrive already aroused into your bedroom. You don't just want to leave it to one partner to do that. The other partner, who's maybe a low desire partner on that day, can, out of kindness to your spouse, is to think upon them, to think upon the parts of their body that you know about that nobody else knows about,
Yeah.
the things that you can delight in. And that is about controlling what you're thinking about. And to say, within the covenant of marriage, you're allowed to. It's actually suggested
Well,
and
yeah.
encouraged.
Yeah.
It's also because sex is an act of spiritual warfare.
Mm.
So as we mentioned, I think in our very first one, we talk about sex as an act of worship, is that at all the shrines to the temples of the different gods and the asherahs and whatever, there was some kind of sacrifice. And part of that sacrifice was sex, these prostitutes, these temple prostitutes. And so, the enemy understands the power of sex to actually hold you in bondage and slavery.
Mm.
And the opposite of that is freedom. So people in ministry together, you need to, sometimes you actually have to just decide we need to have sex because it's healthy. It's part of our spiritual warfare. Particularly people involved in worship leading, whatever. There's an anointing of intimacy on the lives of people who lead worship because they help bring people into the presence of God.
Mm.
There's a place of intimacy and creativity there. Artists, the creative arts, you expressing the creativity of God when you have sex.
Mm.
And so as part of your spiritual warfare, sometimes you need to, just as much you're going to pray before worship service, how about you make sure you're up to date on good sex within your marriage? And sometimes it doesn't start off good. It's on the list of chores to do, like we need to do this and this and make sure the sound system works, and we get that one's going to learn prayer, and we are going to have sex tonight because it's good for you and it's good for your bonding. Yeah.
Very good for the bonding, and it's obviously out of that place of unity and of real intimacy. You can create a space for other people with God. Okay. So let's just go back to the whole issue of good sex is appreciating the full sexual cycle. Okay, Jen spoke about it briefly. And there's one statement which is very helpful, is that for many people, orgasm has hijacked the sexual act. Okay, so I'll say that again. Orgasm has hijacked the sexual act. And this often becomes the case when there's been porn in our lives. Okay, and so a beautiful way to know are we having good sex is when every stage, desire, excitement, plateau, orgasm, and resolution, okay, are we able to really appreciate every phase and it's not being hijacked just by one? All right. I mean, can you imagine if it was just hijacked by desire and we never actually had penetrative sex? I mean, that would be very frustrating for both both members of the couple. If we just stayed in excitement, we physiologically could not cope with it. We would literally die from the amount of adrenaline that is being released there. Okay, if we just stayed in plateau, then we couldn't cope with that either.
It would get frustrating.
Yeah, but I think if we're just focusing on one, and there are seasons, folks. We can't say that in every season, every part of the sexual cycle will be focused on, and sometimes even possible. But we've got to know there's a broader picture and try to express and maximize each part of the sexual cycle.
There are times when, as Andre said, where sex it's long, and we take time on every part of the sexual cycle. It's meaningful. We prepare. We do candle lights, we do all the things that, you know, creates an atmosphere for romance, for worship, whatever. But there are times when it's actually just a little bit frivolous and fun, you know, and you take like, oh my, we're going to that auntie's party and this one's going to kiss me and that one's going to drink too much or whatever. It's like, actually, let's just go and quickly have some sex beforehand.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Or we decide certain things. We'll look at each
Yeah.
other in certain ways. And as I think we've maybe said on this one, I'm not sure if we said it in pre-marriage, but sometimes we decide we're going to a pre-meeting. We think we'll go commando tonight.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it just brings a little bit of fun back into, like, I know something about you and you know something about me, that yes, we are doing other things at night, but we've got a secret.
Yeah.
And it's a fun secret, and this is ours. And it creates an intimacy and some fun with
Closeness.
a closeness in just the knowing. For that. And so just to say that, guys, there's a lot of exploring to do in this. And also when there's a place of hurt, if you're going to a situation where, I don't know how I feel to say this, but where you know that there's a partner who's been distracted before, or I know if you, amongst a group of close friends, sometimes friends get a little bit too close and things can go wrong. And even in Christian circles, you know, and to actually tell your spouse, you know what, I feel like this guy's hitting on me a bit. Or I said, Andre, do you realize that woman's hitting on you? And I think it's before those times, if you're feeling vulnerable as well, that's also a good choice, you know, to have sex before you go and meet, you know, where there are people there to remind ourselves who's boss, what decisions we've made.
Yeah.
And to be open with that. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously we could talk for a long time around what is good sex, but hopefully this gives you a good understanding. And why do we need to know this, folks? It's because so often when we don't know what healthy, good sex is, we become curious and we go other places. Okay? And we've really got to settle in our hearts. What is good sex? What does the Bible say? How do I know that I'm having the best of the best? All right. And to settle that in our hearts, because then we can actually firstly focus on each other and maximize it. But secondly, we just realize other things aren't worth trying to explore. But the next thing we're going to look at is the whole issue of touch. We did touch on it, excuse the pun, last time, but we're just going to look a bit more deeply at it. All right, last time we spoke just very briefly about functional, rehabilitative, caring, sensual, erotic, and sexual touch. That those are there are six. There are the 6 levels of touch, functional being the least intimate, sexual being the most intimate, okay? And then obviously at each one of those levels, all right, you've got functional touch can be gentle, soft, deep, hard, painful, or hurtful. Sensual touch can be those as well. Sexual touch can be those as well. So we all have a script. Remember that our first sense in our when we were created was touch. All right, we felt all the amniotic fluid around us in the womb, and we actually felt the vibrations of people speaking around us in that amniotic fluid. So touch is the primal sense in our body. So it would be silly for us to not consider our touch script and what it means to us. All right. So we got to know, as we said last time, what is functional touch for me might not be for Jen. What is sensual touch for me might not be for Jen. All right. And what is erotic touch for her might not be for me either. But in order for us to really start understanding this, we go to the list on the left-hand side. We all have memories of touch. And we've got to start understanding what these memories are and how they affect the way we touch and receive touch, because that's crucial in the sexual act.
So all of us have stories related to the ones on the left, because there was parental touch, whether you had one parent or none.
Yeah.
You know, just knowing that how you were soothed as a baby is very big in terms of laying the foundation for your touch A script can also be like a dictionary, like a vocabulary of touch, where you can just, pick from. It's how you interpret that feeling
Yeah.
on your body. And so it also, and it's going to be related as well physiologically to how you were born, what kind of birth you had,
Yeah.
um, and how you received, but how you were disciplined, how you were. And I'm not saying you can't get a hiding, a good, I'm not going to talk about hidings generally, but
Yeah.
in some places, but how were you soothed? Because we want to look at safety, how to create safety. So for you to discuss with each other, how did your parents soothe you as a baby? If you don't know, ask your parents or ask your siblings, how were we soothed as a baby? Were you touched? Were you patted? Were you patted on the back? Were you patted on the bottom? Were you tickled on the hair when you were sick? So there's stories there. Then there'll be siblings.
So an example would be like, for me, I was soothed by soft tickling on my arm or on my back. Jen was
And it
soothed.
could have been because he was in an incubator, and the only way to touch a child in the incubator in those days, they wouldn't let you touch them.
Yeah.
We don't know where that began. And for me, it was a deeper touch and a patting of the bottom, patting
Yep.
of the bottom.
Yep.
So the bottom will be a more sensitive space for me.
And I've had to learn that.
Sharing
And
being
it's
so
good.
vulnerable because he wasn't
Yeah.
a bottom man.
Yeah.
And so just realizing, and this is where it's important to tell your stories, because we don't realize we're carrying these ideas, and then we get all offended, or like, if he loves me, why doesn't he touch there or touch there? Or he doesn't know.
No.
Or like, you're like, and then he is frustrated, but why doesn't she take time, and
Yeah.
so there's stories. So although these look like a list of people, there's actually a list of stories about what happened in your
Yeah.
life and how you interpreted that touch. Because if you were touched in a particular way and it led to an abusive situation, that's also very confusing, because it could have been arousing, especially if it's a child, because you didn't know and your body is created to react in a certain way. But now you have a loathing of that kind of touch.
Yeah.
So, and yet it was arousing. And how do you deal with that? So there's some conversation to be had in marriage. Why do we let, the devil use that brokenness? Why can't we see how we can turn that for good?
Yeah.
That builds something into some safety into your relationship.
So we've all had scripts developed by our siblings, how they touched us. Our firsts, Jen spoke about, probably one of my biggest things is, as an incubative child, that might be a reason why I enjoy that soft touch, but it's firsts all the way through. And that would even be our sexual firsts. Unfortunately, that really imprints a touch script around sexual touch. And we've got to understand what that is and not expect that from our spouse.
Yeah.
But help our spouse to understand why we might have an aversion to some touches.
So that's first kisses,
Yeah.
first boyfriends, first girlfriends, first hand holding, first, and you're likely to remember those things because they should have been really exciting. And your body would have had a chemistry, and you would have, that's imprinted in your memory. But what do you do with that to say, actually confess, well, this is the kind of touch I like, because the circumstances changed and that circumstance was not helpful. And this is why even when we talk to teenagers, we just say, be careful of your firsts, because those firsts will stay with you your whole life.
Yeah.
What would you want to take into your bedroom with you as a married person? And so, to talk, you don't have to talk about the personal things, but even to yourself, depending if it's going to be helpful or harmful, but to understand yourself. So getting to know yourself and your own stories.
So we're here now, and it would be wrong for us to talk about touch scripts and not say, how can we actually heal ourselves? Okay. And so obviously there are lots of different ways, folks, and OTs are really good at this, all right, with their bouncing and their lovely hammocks and all.
Those hammocks that are so spongy and
but so now we're going to do this, all right? So Jen's going to take my hand, all right? She's going to take my hand.
My hand.
Okay, all right. And now she is going to touch my hand for herself, all right? For her to appreciate what she feels. It's not for me, okay? Okay, I
Oh.
can't do that. Okay. So and now so this touch experience is for the giver, not for the person receiving. Okay. It's very helpful because it takes the responsibility off the receiver to receive it in a way that the giver is giving it. Okay. So if I have been hurt by somebody hurting my hand, I know that Jen is appreciating my hand, and I can overcome that sense of Jen is touching my hand. I remember that bad thing, and I feel this because it's actually not about me. It's about Jen, and I know she's appreciating my hand.
So if
Okay.
I had to touch Andre's hand in a way that would soothe him because of his touch script as a child, I will tickle his hand.
Yeah.
I will tickle his very, very lightly.
Okay. But that's not why we're doing this.
But that's not, but that's what I would do for him as a sacrifice, because I hate tickling like that. But I'm doing that as a sacrifice. Not I hate it, but I mean, it's not soothing. But what I'm trying to, what's going to happen is going to help Andre to learn to receive touch that I intend because I'm delighting in his hand. I'm not punishing him because he didn't do his scales on the piano.
Yeah.
I'm actually,
Okay.
he wants to change that memory.
So touch my hand and enjoy it.
And I want to just enjoy it. And I want to feel it. And for me, it's in a way that if I had to make a pottery sculpture of his hand, I would know it. So I want to know the knuckles. And Andre is not thinking the same thing.
No.
I want to feel the shape of the cuticles. This is for me to enjoy his hand and say, wow, there's such life. There's such joy. This hand has held so many children. That's what I'm thinking. Relational as a woman.
Yeah. Okay. And the beautiful thing is, I don't need to now feel I must respond to the touch. Okay. It takes all the pressure off me as the receiver. But I'm
so you're not even
grateful.
criticizing. I just want to know, you're not criticizing.
I'm not criticizing.
You're basically saying, Jen, you've got the freedom to touch my hand and I'm not going to take offense.
Yeah. And so, and then Jen can enjoy what she likes, but I know, and I've got the trust in my heart that it's going to actually fill Jen's cup.
It's the intention. He's giving me the freedom
to fill her cup.
And he knows my intention is to enjoy.
Afterwards, I might say, ach, you know, man, just somehow do that. Okay. All right. But that is how we start building trust again.
Around touch.
Around touch. And yeah, we really just encourage you to do that every now and then. It's called Sensate focus. You can go and read up about it. Okay. But it's a beautiful way to just help people. Yeah. It's a beautiful way to help people understand that.
And that touch, we're not talking about sexual touch. It is literally your hands, your shoulders, your things, you know. Yeah.
So I want to,
But it can be.
Yeah, it can be.
No, I'm just saying it can be. But I mean, there's certain things like my brother used to tease me, I think I told you, and he'd pin us down as, you know, the girls, and then he'd take his finger, here comes the drill. And he'd drill like into your breastbone here. And it was so ticklish and almost painful. But if Andre has to come to try and touch me, it's like, I don't want to be touched there because it, you know, I was trapped by my brother, but it did build a relationship. It's not harmful, but it was, yeah.
And so
your whole body carries the scripts.
Yeah. And so for Jen to actually give me that Sensate focus experience.
Yeah.
There.
You know.
She's got to know that I'm going to touch her here. All right. And it's about what I am appreciating.
Yeah, whereas originally I already just want to go like that. Yeah.
But when she feels safe that Andre is doing it out of love and to appreciate me, and it's not about my feeling, then we can start developing a new script.
So that's our homework. You know, there's a piece of my body here that's this big and that needs to have a new memory made.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that is touch. All right. And now we're going to look at our bodies. Okay. And before we do that, it's always good to put it in context so we don't create any hurt or any pain
Triggers.
and triggers. So we need to know our body. In 1 Thessalonians 4, we are told to avoid sexual immorality. How do we do that? Each of you should learn to control your own body in a way that is holy and honorable, not in passionate lust. Okay, so if we are going to stop immoral acts or thoughts or fantasies, we actually first need to start by knowing our own body. All right, if we look at Psalm 139, you formed my innermost being, God, shaping my delicate inside and my intricate outside, and wove them all together in my mother's womb. I thank you, God, for making me so mysteriously complex. This is the TPT. Everything you do is marvelously breathtaking. It simply amazes me to think about it. Carefully, skillfully, you shaped me from nothing to something. You saw who you created me to be before I became me. All right.
So, in this place of talking about the intricacy and the delicacy of God's creation, I'm not sure if at school you had to draw, in a late primary school somewhere, you would have had to draw plants, and you had to go and put the different labels onto the plants, the different parts and what they do. And when the wind blows, the little seeds go off there. And, some of them have got like little parachutes, so the wind will carry them away. And so every plant, every creature is created delicately for multiplication, to thrive, to add to the ecology within the planet. And even the chojos, if you say the little spiders or insects, sorry for everyone who's, what's it, spiders, arachnophobic. You've got all these tiny little bits and pieces that are there for a particular reason, to do with the health, the safety and survival of that species and how it interacts with other species as well. So when we come to the human body, we're going to be looking at some biology diagrams now. And so for some of you, it might be a little bit triggering to be looking at this. So if you feel uncomfortable, you're free to leave. But we're going to be looking at how God made the intricate human body. So we're heading into a biology lesson. It's not a marriage relationship part of the...
No, it is marriage.
Well, it is marriage relationship.
Absolutely.
No.
What's that about? Of course it is.
He knows that. You guys know what I mean, right?
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so the first thing to look at, so we're going to be looking at the sexual part specifically. All right, we've got to reestablish the wonder, the awe, the fearfulness of God's creation to our sexual parts, because so often they have been minimized or they have been really violated in our mind, whether they've been done that physically. So let's look quickly. The breasts are important sexual parts of our body, all right? And that's for women and for men, okay? So the innervation of the breasts
Innervation means where the nerves go.
Thank you. Yeah. That's good, yeah. So the innervation of the breast goes to the same part of the brain that causes the nerves to go down to our genitals between our legs. Okay, isn't that interesting? All right, so if I stimulate Jen's nipple or she stimulates mine, it is going to cause a stimulation of the lower genitalia. So actually including the breasts in our sexual act is important, and it really it's going to engage different parts of our brain and then our whole body as well. And you can actually reach orgasm just by stimulating the nipples. And yeah, guys, apparently that's for us too. But anyway, but so I think so often we only think that what's between our legs is our sexual parts, but our breasts are. And we must cherish them and we must look after them. It's also so helpful to help our children know that our breasts are actually easily stimulate our genitals, all right? Because sometimes they can be in relationships or they're hugging too long or whatever it is, and all of a sudden they find that this has happened. And they're not being gross, they're not demonically infested. It's just the way the body works, all right? And so that's what we're needing to understand when it comes to the breast.
And this is quite hard for guys because they walk around without their shirts on, and often like people are, they give each other nipple twists and all kinds of things. It's all like joking things, supposedly. But actually, those things can have an impact. So I think it is important to talk about the touch scripts related to the breast.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and just to break the seriousness of this, what does an old lady keep between her breasts?
Jennifer.
Her belly button.
Jen. Yes. Okay, we're moving on. All right.
I just thought to bring some lightness.
And Jen's not old.
And also because I sometimes get triggered by the next pictures myself. But isn't this spider beautiful? This plant beautiful?
Okay, so here is the female, a diagram of the female standing upright. Okay, and if you can just orientate yourself on your left-hand side on your screen, that would be the buttocks. Okay, and on the other side, that would be the tummy with the leg at the bottom. All right.
And the yellow bits are the bones.
Yes. Yeah.
The
Okay.
spine, coccyx, and pubis.
Well, not all the yellow bits, but okay.
Yeah.
So if you just read through, okay, those labels, you've got the ovary, the uterus, the cervix, rectum, vagina, anus, perineum, labia majora, and then minora, the clitoris, the prepuce of the clitoris, the vaginal rugae, the pubic symphysis, the bladder, and the fallopian tube. Some of us will not know what one of those labels means. Okay, and if we go back to scripture, if we're going to be healthy sexual beings, we do need to know. We need to work out what it means. And so when it comes to the female anatomy, because of going through puberty and menstruation, we often know more about the female anatomy. Okay, but guys often don't. So I'm just going to raise things like many guys will say, I touched her vagina. All right, now we can't really touch anybody's vagina from the outside.
Anybody's.
Okay, a woman's vagina from the outside. Okay, but we can touch her labia majora and minora from the outside. Okay, you'll see there's something called vaginal rugae, and those are little ridges in probably the first inch to an inch and a half within the vagina, and those ridges form once you have entered into the plateau phase of the sexual act.
Yeah, so, those ridges only really sort of come alive during arousal.
Yeah.
Just like the erection for a man, everything goes up and this is where women don't always know when you arouse because all the blood is down there. It's all internal, but everything sort of plumps up, and those ridges will then sort of come alive.
Come alive. Yeah. Okay. And then one asks, well, why? Why did God want vaginal rugae? Well, actually, it's to make sex pleasurable. Isn't that amazing? And for us to, there's a wonderful thing that God has given women. He's given her vaginal rugae and her clitoris purely for sexual pleasure. All right? And the vaginal rugae give her a bit of sexual pleasure, but they're also there to give her husband sexual pleasure. All right. And so we can start just exploring and celebrating what God has given us. Okay, so I would really encourage you, go and look at maybe what the perineum is, the clitoral prepuce. You can just start understanding yourself first. We always start with ourselves, huh? Understand ourselves first, and then help our partner to understand what we have to some extent, and just be kind in that. In terms of female sensitivity, it is really good to know about the labia as well as the clitoris. Okay, so almost 85% of ladies' orgasm is originated in the clitoris. So you'll see on the top left, so we've blacked out the diagrams, folks, because they can be a bit too explicit, all right? But on the top diagram on the left, you've got the clitoral glands, okay? And remember in our previous chat, we had pictures of the genitalia with different colors, all right? And just like the man has the glans penis, the lady has the clitoral glands, okay? And that's a very sensitive part. But
So that's just when we're talking about differentiation within the womb, that with
Yeah.
the XY makes it into one, either a female part or a male part, into the testicles or into the labia majora.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the clitoris has a glans, it also has a body. Now, the clitoris is 99% almost of it is actually within the body, and it extends backward from the clitoral glands and then around on the sides of the vaginal opening.
Almost like a wishbone.
Yes.
So like in a wishbone on the chicken, the little breastbone of the chicken, that the little head part is like the clitoris, which is really like the tip of an iceberg. But the rest of it is within the body and around the vagina. So it has a very big role to play in arousal.
Yeah.
And
in arousal
and desire.
and orgasm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
It's a beautifully made body part, very clever of God.
very clever. So you can stimulate the clitoris not only at its head, but all the way around the opening to the vagina. And you know, Jen does a great job with young girls that are doing the pre-marriage. And, you know, in scripture, and Jen goes there, she just speaks about the fact that we've got to understand it first. And we need to actually explore ourselves.
So in order to take responsibility for your own body, it's like when you're getting ingrown toenails, you know about it. You've got to go and dig around the toenails. You've got to find out, you know, and to take responsibility to, you know, care for it and look after it. And, you know, to think now about your own body, and there's certain things because of your life story that you will certain be, and how you were spoken about as a child, like, oh no, don't touch that, whatever, don't do that, don't do that. But there's certain things like, you know, like as a child you were told, okay, don't touch that, or you need to go to the bathroom to do that. So a child knows, okay, if I want to make a number two, I need to go to the bathroom and it's private and I clean myself up and I don't come out and tell everyone the details. You know, it's the same with the honor. These are honored parts of the sacred, honored parts of the body. But it's also good to know if you want to increase the tenderness within your sexual relationship and the kindness is to know what your own body has. And if that part of your body has created shame before, there's some mind changing things to go to change your mind on those things. And that's why I'm going to talk about sensate focus beforehand. But we're responsible for our own bodies and our own sense of what we allow somebody to touch, how we feel it's helpful or not helpful. And sometimes, you know, you can feel like, oh my gosh, that's actually a really good feeling. But, you know, you need to tell your spouse about it and to say, when you're embarrassed, it's good to, that is also a good indicator to say, why am I embarrassed about that? There's a story there, but to be kind to yourself. So there's no problem with exploring your body to find out what is arousing.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're thinking about your lover, if that helps to get you in the mood to even self-arouse out of kindness to your spouse, and thinking upon your spouse, then it aligns biblically as well.
Okay. So we're going to quickly look at this, and I don't need to tell you what that is, all right? But we often don't know the different parts of the male anatomy. They're far more, I don't know, labels here.
Intricate.
And it's very intricately created. And it's good to understand what the erogenous zones on the penis are. Firstly, for us to know how it works so that we don't position ourselves in a way that is unkind for ourselves or others. Okay, but again, there you go. You've got the bladder, the ductus deferens, often known as the vas deferens, the prostate gland, the penis, the corpus cavernosum. And so it goes on. The bulbourethral gland, the corpus spongiosum, the bulbospongiosus muscle, all those things are part of the male sexual anatomy. I always get very excited when I speak at youth meetings. If you actually stretch out all of the little vesicles in the testicle, and you actually spread it out, it's almost 7 meters that it takes for sperm to get from the moment it starts forming to being ejaculated. Anyway, that's just by the way. But you see, we've got to celebrate what God has given us. Okay, so the sperm, obviously, it gets stored in the epididymis, goes down and around and up through the vas deferens. It then gets accumulated in the ampulla. You'll see that in the middle on the right there. And then in the ampulla, the seminal vesicle actually adds some seminal fluid. And then it goes into the prostate. And as it goes through there, prostatic fluid is added to it. Because remember that only 5% of ejaculate is sperm. The rest is prostatic fluid and seminal fluid that helps it actually move. All right. So, and
which one has sugar?
Yeah. So the prostate, yeah. So the prostatic fluid, the prostate fluid, has fructose in it, and the fructose actually helps the ejaculate and the sperm to have energy to eventually go into the fallopian tube and impregnate the ova. So often when when people are struggling to fall pregnant, it's good to know, is my prostate okay? Do I have enough fructose in my system? So there we might be looking at issues of diabetes, those kinds of things. So I hope this is just helping you to realize it's good to know how we are created. Now, in men, you will see that at the top of the penis, you have something called the corpus cavernosum. And you'll see there that it's got lots of little sort of caverns on the top, okay? And then you'll see at the bottom, you've got the bulbospongiosus muscle, okay? As well as the spongiosum, the corpus spongiosum muscle. Now, those two muscles cause erections, all right? And so it's very interesting that the penis becomes most erect when we are least stressed out and we are not trying to push blood into our penis. Okay, so normally an erection will start when we actually push blood in, but then we've got to relax as men so that the penis will become completely erect. Okay, so that's helpful to understand for when we go to erectile dysfunction. And I'm just going to talk about this briefly, okay? Erectile dysfunction is obviously when one is unable as a man either to generate an erection, okay? And the other kind of erectile dysfunction is if you aren't able to sustain an erection. And there are two kinds of erectile dysfunction. You've got primary erectile dysfunction, and that is where you've never ever been able to have an erection. Okay, and you'll know that. You then have acquired erectile dysfunction, and that is when over time you have realized that you can't maintain an erection. Okay, so we've got to know those. Primary erectile dysfunction has a physical root. Okay, and so that needs to be worked out with a urologist and whoever, probably a pediatrician before a urologist, because it's been found out earlier on, hopefully, for men. Okay, so those are the two kinds of erectile dysfunction you get. Now, I always say when people come to us with sexual problems, we always go to the physical before we go to the emotional and the spiritual. Okay, so if you are experiencing erectile dysfunction, you make sure that your lifestyle is good. If there's smoking, if there's foreign drugs or things that you are taking in, even medications, can actually affect your ability to get an erection. Okay, there could be neural issues, and diabetes often creates that as well. Okay, blood vessel constrictions or attrition can cause that. So firstly, if you're struggling with it,
Heart
the heart
conditions,
conditions,
just your cardiovascular system.
you go and have it checked out. Okay, then we go to the mental issues. Okay, anxiety, depression can cause erectile dysfunction. Okay, and that is often related to relationship issues. Now, that would be the one that in Grace Online, that would probably be the biggest issue when it comes to erectile dysfunction. The other issue here is self-image and body image can actually affect whether I'm able to get an erection. So I hope I'm just giving you a whole lot of things. If you are struggling with this or you know of people that are, you can help them to consider these issues. Shame, guilt, and then the big one, the guilt and shame that comes with looking at porn. Okay. Now, there've been not many studies done on porn-induced erectile dysfunction. Okay, and there should be way more done. And many of the studies actually they show the opposite. Okay, but I'm not going to go there because a premise for most of these studies, all of them, is that there is nothing wrong with pornography. Okay, but we know that is not God's plan.
It's a breaking of
for
covenant.
The act of sex. Yeah. Okay, then we've got to look at.
But that's why we've got Song of Songs. We've got Song of Songs.
Okay, but anyway, so we've got to then look at we've got to turn it on its head, folks. All right. In the world, they are saying to keep an erection, you need to visualize and fantasize on good sex. Okay. All right. And so I really want, and I'm pleased, and hear me now, okay? I'm never ever saying that we must fantasize and use the sexual act, especially with our spouse, in an unhealthy, ungodly way. Yeah. But on the other hand, we've got to know that when we are able to have good, healthy sex, remember it, celebrate it, and keep that memory, which is actually an intimacy developing memory, because that is going to help you to overcome any porn-induced erectile dysfunction.
And that's something you can even discuss as a couple.
Yeah.
On a time when you have really good sex, you could say, oh, I love the way this, or that was really awesome. Or, you know, that you actually entrenching the memory of the times you've had good sex. Yeah. But when I was also,
so we've run out
of time. Okay, we'll pick up next time.
Okay. All right. Over to you, Kevin and Michelle.
Oh, Jen, Andre, that was amazing this morning. I'm telling you, I'm sitting here going, didn't know that. I did not know that. But I must say, I got pretty much stuck right in the beginning with my polished ivory. So anything said after that didn't mean much. So, and I'm just kidding. I'm joking. It was absolutely brilliant. But yeah, so I had no idea about nipples. Going to be honest. I knew the ladies were sensitive, but me, I didn't know that. So very interesting.
We're going to ask everybody to post any questions in the chat and also any feedback in the chat that you want to ask Andre and Jen. There was a thing right in the beginnings. I can't remember who asked it, but somebody wanted to have more info on spiritual warfare and sex. They wanted to know why spiritual warfare
Was added on that.
Why it was added when spiritual warfare, in a sense, is a negative thing and sex is such a positive thing. So if you can speak a little bit into that.
Okay.
Yeah, so spiritual warfare is coming against the demonic powers of the enemy.
Yeah.
There's two ways to do that. You want to turn off, you can't turn off darkness, you can only turn on the light. So you want to focus, because even when you're praying spiritual warfare, you're praying in the name of Jesus and with the blood of Jesus. And so what you do, but there's another way to also do spiritual, is welcome the presence of God. So having sex, good sex, in building the covenant between yourselves, a covenant which God is related in, and raising up and celebrating God's gift to you, is a way of turning on the light spiritually for for increased connection and bonding. The bonding in the marriage, and this covenant. And that's why when we first started the whole series, that how important covenant is. So we're building a covenant. So I'm not sure if that explains a bit.
I think also, I think we've got to be a bit more frank. We are not saying that if you are struggling and you are feeling spiritual attack, that you must run off and have sex. Okay. We are saying that it creates, all right, the right environment in your marriage to stand in unity against the enemy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hope that clarifies.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to say that one of the things that stood out the most for me this morning is the demonstration that you guys gave of the hand. That for me was like, wow, like we all need to, it's such a simple thing, but it's not something that we all do or focus on. And yet it's such a brilliant demonstration on how every single one of us can do that and carry that forward. And then the other thing that stood out for me was Jen's joke, like the belly button was
Michelle.
Thanks,
Really?
Michelle.
Don't encourage.
I just needed to release it.
Yeah, the springbok tattoo that becomes a
Giraffe.
A giraffe.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so if there's any comments, Kenneth, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think that was a fascinating discussion. I loved the touch scripts the most. That was very, very fascinating. And the memories that we hold in our body, it's just marvelous the way that God has made us. I really enjoyed that and looking at that as well. So yeah, and I see that coming up a lot. Or like sort of, there's a lot of things in that area that could sort of hamper or distract or cause ongoing pain and stuff that would need to be resolved for many people, I would think. So that was very, very fascinating. And then also the research, I said there that there may be some sort of bias, which is what you obviously alluded to in terms of the research, because these guys believe that there's nothing wrong with pornography, and that's why it is the way it is. It's a massive problem. We see the impact of that, on kids and on marriages, on people. And these guys are just like, no, there's nothing wrong with pornography, and that's the way they see it. So they don't study it because, it's just something natural that we all get to do. That was also fascinating. It adds to understanding why the world is going the way it is going, So that was very fascinating. Thanks. That was a brilliant presentation. I felt myself blushing there a little bit, but not so bad. Thanks for that, Andre. It was very good.
I just want to
mention...
you
muted?
Yeah.
Andre.
There we
Sorry.
go. I just mentioned that we were on a webinar last week with Stephanie Carnes, and she was talking about how many times they see people in their consulting rooms that are battling with the pornography-induced erectile dysfunction. And she was saying that when you start working on your recovery and when you start working at getting closer together, and it does come down to that biblical context, that this does resolve itself over time. So if there is anybody on the program here that does find that they are battling with that, just understand that the more that you feed into your recovery, into your relationship, that this will recover over time. It isn't something that you're going to battle with for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It does get better.
It does improve.
It does get better.
Yeah, and I think, realizing that porn-induced erectile dysfunction is the acquired form. So it's not primary. If it were primary, that would be a problem, but it's the acquired form. And so understanding how you get that is so crucial. And the big one is relationships, and then feelings of shame and guilt. Okay, so, and I love Grace Online's position. We want to relieve ourselves of the shame and guilt. And in doing that, we're actually going to be addressing that PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction. Okay.
See, there is a question there. Where can we get a copy of the recording of this? I think, Kenneth, it does get posted. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yes, please just send me a WhatsApp message. My number is, if anybody wants the link, we're going to put it on YouTube. So as soon as the videos are ready, we will post it. So if you want a copy, you could just send me a WhatsApp on that number there that I've posted in the chat. So yeah, that's amazing.
There's another question. I just want to read it out. How does one learn in a relationship to have safe touch that does not lead to wanting sexual intimacy from one of the partners?
Good question.
Very good.
Yeah. I think it's learning your script,
And telling your story.
and telling your story. Yeah.
Because once you know the why, it's easier to be kind.
Mm.
But if that why has also been traumatic, it's just like any other trauma that happens, whether you're doing CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy, or whether you're doing a brain work, BWRT, whatever, there's retraining the grooving of your brain. It's creating new memories. And God has given us, God is outside of time. He is in the future. So he can help us create memories that are helpful to replace that. And that's one's actually own responsibility. So it's also discussing, where's it my responsibility if I'm finding it offensive, that I take responsibility for that. And I really take to the Lord, Lord, I'm going to need you to help me make a new memory of this. What would be the best memory that I could replace this with?
Yeah.
For that. And obviously to discuss it as well.
Yeah.
But not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But doable.
And I don't want to harp on Sensate Focus. But one of the reasons why Sensate Focus is so good is because it actually, every time we touch ourselves, okay, we allow a regrooving. Okay. So when Jen touches my hand, even a way that might not be sensual to me, it's actually creating a groove in my being. Okay. And so that's also just one way that we can restructure and reframe our touch script so that it can be more accessible.
And that's why the scripture from 1 Corinthians, from Psalm 139, that one that the version Andre read was the Passion Translation, which is about the delicate, intricate parts, so where do you, so for the young girls before they're going to get married, there's parts of the body they don't want, and which ones are they a little bit ashamed to show him or whatever. So I say, well, their homework is to go and look in the mirror after they shower and just to look and say, oh, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. To take these are my delicate parts. To take that scripture and really to meditate it on and speak that blessing over your body. Even just speaking is vibrations. It's the body is so amazingly made. And so part of your regrooving is to celebrate. Thank you, Lord, for what you've given me. So as a child growing up ashamed of having breasts or something because you developed too soon or whatever, or they were too big or too small or whatever, to say, or the one nipple's looking this way and the other one's looking that way. So, sorry, I'll share another joke another day. But just to say, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. This is me. Andre's got, I don't know if you guys have noticed Andre's special earlobe.
Oh, Jennifer, that's not fair.
He's got a really precious
Okay.
earlobe. So I just, yeah, I can
Our screen is really bad because
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
got light
light
behind
behind
us,
us.
which is very helpful for
It's
me.
helpful for Andre. So
Um,
next time, look out for his earlobe. He's fearfully and wonderfully made.
Okay. So I think you know, body image is huge.
Mm.
Body image, and unfortunately it is so stuffed up by, you know, toxic masculine scripts and all those kinds of things.
And feminine ones, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. So yeah, and that's what Jen is speaking about. You know, to take off layers of these scripts, take off layers of these harsh words and criticisms from our physical being, so that we can celebrate.
And your culture also plays into this, because if you grew up as an African woman, a big bottom's good. If you grew up as a white woman, a skinny bottom's big, you know. And then what about big lips? Or
And that
thin
all
lips or-
affects how the sexual act can take place.
Yeah.
And so you even get sexual acts that are more preferred in different cultures.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that sort of leads on to the next question that came through.
Hold on, Kevin's going to read the next question. I just have to point something out. So, so when we do counseling, we look for the nicknames, and it's Jane, and it's Jen, and it's Jane. But did you notice just now she got the Jennifer?
Then you know she's in trouble.
So, yeah.
When I
So
get
he
my
didn't
full
add my
name,
second
then I'm
name.
flipping, and then I know I'm in big trouble, boy.
Just wait till the
Yeah.
second name gets
Yeah.
added, then I'm in more trouble.
Jennifer Ann. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let me read this question. I think this really flows into what you were just saying. It says, what impact does sexual molestation as a child have when it comes to great sex in a marriage?
So obviously a sexual molestation, it's complicated because there were good feelings there. You know, in the song it says, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. And there's a right season for being aroused. And so a child has been aroused too early.
Wow.
But that arousal is a script which there's shame or pain, depending on what it is. But there's also a sense of, because your body's created how it is, that it might have been a nice feeling. So to change the story around, to go to the story and to take the responsibility oneself around the sensate, like sensate touch, but changing your memory around that touch, is realizing, and this is why we say that it's not helpful to have rules, particularly within Christian circles. Oh gosh, these people said they bought a vibrator, or they, you know, these ones, and you know, now it's all the big discussion about what's right and what's wrong. And that is not helpful. Every marriage creates their own, within the boundaries of 1 Corinthians 13, it's safe. So something which might have been a little bit sort of more like rough sex might actually be more helpful for a couple where there's been abuse and, you know, abuse. Only you can know the story and the motives behind what it is. And that's why we talk about talking about it.
Yeah, but I just want to qualify that. We never, ever want to use our spouse as a way to reenact anything.
Never, never. No.
Okay. And so I think the point Jen is making is one of kindness. And remember, kindness is letting go of my ability to actually take on somebody's inability. And so when it comes to the child molestation, there is an inability. And we need to be very careful as the spouse to let go of my ability and really understand the inability, which can become a beautiful gift to us as a couple when it is understood well. So I hope we've covered that, and that is helpful. But yes, molestation definitely affects touch scripts, the way we see our bodies, the way that we experience arousal as well as sexual pleasure. And so it is unfortunate that it does mess up our sex life. But with God's help, it can become a beautiful tool to actually make it beautiful as well.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that is also, I mean, you know, Michelle and I are constantly talking about communicate. But even in a situation like that, if you could, I mean, you the most intimate person is your partner that you can be with, and you really need to talk that through with them and really need to open up about it with them so that they understand where you are coming from with certain of the way that your body reacts when they touch you in a certain way or that type of thing. Because if they don't understand that you're pulling away, that they start to feel rejected from that situation. Meanwhile, it's a reaction to something that happened to you as a child, and you haven't, they don't understand it because you've never spoken to them about it. So we really encourage you, as hard as it's going to be, I'm not saying it's an easy thing, as hard as it's going to be, if you have been molested as a child, is to open up to your partner, if you can, is to open up to your partner and say to them, listen, this is what's happened. This is why I react the way I do. Please, let's just help me through this. And with that, then coming back to what Andre and Jen said, is then reteach your body to enjoy being touched in a certain way, or your arm being hand being held, or because sometimes even that can trigger people because their hands were held and they were taken away into a room and that type of thing. So there's all of those sort of triggering things. But if you can talk to your partner about it and just really open up about it and spend a lot of time talking about it, that's not a one conversation. We call it a thick milkshake paper straw conversation. That's a long conversation because you're going to spend some time there on that. And then the two of you can really just find a way forward with that together. And actually, and like Andre just said, turn it into something that's wonderful. Don't leave it as something that's bad. Do we have any other questions? Thanks. Awesome, guys. That's it.
That's it. We're going to say goodbye to everybody, but if anybody wants to stay on for a few seconds to ask a question, if you're a bit shy to ask it now, we can hang around for about 5 minutes and we can answer any question that you have. But otherwise, we'll say goodbye to everybody else that doesn't.
And we just want to honor Andre and Jen for this morning. Thank you so much for the effort and the time that you put in. We know the effort and time you put in, so we appreciate it. And we really just want to honor you guys. Thank you so much for what you did for us this morning.